You got a bunch of people there who love their job, and there's a responsibility in that, and there has been over a number of years. You work with these people every day, and only...
I never for a second took that for granted, or I never thought that you can't do this without respecting the individual or the outfit.
A locked door doesn't stay locked forever. For 5 years, Mark Harmon closed the door on the character that made him a household name. He walked away quietly, without a farewell tour, without a tearful interview, without a single explanation to the millions of fans who had watched him for 2 decades. Now, in 2026, that door has opened again. And nobody, not even longtime fans, saw it coming. Before we get into what actually happened, tell us in the comments where in the world you're watching from tonight. This is a surprising return of Mark Harmon. Silence was always his answer. When Mark Harmon left NCIS in 2021, he didn't hold a press conference. He didn't sit down with a late-night host to explain himself. Instead, the writers gave his character, Leroy Jethro Gibbs, a quiet ending in the Alaskan wilderness, fishing alone, finally at peace. Fans assumed that was the last they would ever see of him. For nearly 2 decades, Harmon had carried the show on his back, both as its lead actor and as an executive producer whose name meant billions in advertising revenue for CBS. 16-hour days had become his normal. Knee surgery, joint pain, and simple exhaustion had worn down a body that once absorbed hits on a college football field. So when he stepped away, most people accepted it as retirement, a well-earned rest. Grocery stores, school pickup lines, an ordinary street in California. That's where, by most accounts, Harmon spent most of his time after 2021, far from red carpets and press junkets. Interviewers who had spent years trying to get him to open up about his personal life mostly gave up. Even NCIS itself moved on without him on screen, introducing new characters to fill the leadership void Gibbs left behind. The show kept its ratings. The franchise kept expanding into spin-offs, and Harmon, by all appearances, seemed content to watch it happen from a safe distance. Exactly the kind of distance he had spent his whole life building. What almost nobody expected was that his exit wasn't really an ending at all. It was a pause. And the reason for that pause traces back to a decision Harmon made decades earlier, long before badges and crime scenes, in a household where love and performance were often the same thing. Burbank, California, in the 1950s, was not an easy place to be Tom Harmon's son. Tom Harmon had won the Heisman Trophy in 1940, flown combat missions as a decorated fighter pilot in World War II, and become one of the most recognized sports broadcasters in the country. To the public, he was a legend. Inside his own home, he was something else entirely, a strict disciplinarian who expected excellence and rarely tolerated anything less. Mark once described his upbringing simply, saying his father raised him hard, meaning he had to earn everything. There was no room for softness in that house. Achievement was currency, and Mark learned early that keeping his feelings to himself was safer than showing them. His mother, Elise Knox, had been a film actress in the 1940s, and she understood better than most how quickly a public image could be built or destroyed. Watching his parents manage their careers so carefully taught young Mark something he would carry for the rest of his life. Fame was a performance, not a comfort. Respect in his family had to be earned through action. 2 older sisters watched the same pressure play out in their own lives, and the household rules stayed consistent for all 3 children. Results mattered more than feelings. Vulnerability wasn't punished outright. It simply wasn't acknowledged. A miscatch, a low grade, a moment of hesitation. These were treated as problems to fix, not emotions to discuss. For a boy growing up under a national hero's roof, the message was clear long before he understood it fully. Every accomplishment would be measured against a legacy he didn't choose and couldn't escape. And the first place he tried to earn it wasn't a movie set. It was a football field. Nebraska was a defending national champion, and nobody expected a junior college transfer to beat them. In 1972, Mark Harmon arrived at UCLA and immediately became the starting quarterback for Bruins, running a demanding wishbone offense that required split-second decisions on every play. In his very first game, he led an upset win over Nebraska's Cornhuskers, a result that stunned college football. Over 2 seasons, his teams went 17-5. But Harmon wasn't just an athlete chasing glory. He graduated with strong academic honors in communications and won the National Football Foundation's National Scholar Athlete Award in 1973. Proof, to a family that valued achievement above all else, that his mind matched his body. That body, though, paid a price: joint damage, torn tissue, weekly collisions that would have sidelined most people. He absorbed it all without complaint, because complaining wasn't something his upbringing allowed. Then came the choice nobody predicted. Instead of entering professional football, where scouts expected him to go, Harmon walked away entirely to chase acting. He spent his early Hollywood years working as a carpenter and a roofer, taking rejection after rejection at auditions. It would have broken most people. It didn't break him, because he treated every casting call the same way he treated a football drill. Show up early, stay humble, do the work. That discipline would eventually save someone's life. On a freezing night in his own neighborhood, one car, two teenagers, in about 30 seconds decided everything on a January night in 1996. A vehicle lost control on a residential street in Brentwood, slammed into a wall, flipped, and burst into fire. One boy escaped. The other, 16-year-old Colin Specht, was trapped upside down inside the burning wreckage. Harmon's wife spotted the fire from their home and called for help immediately, but Harmon didn't wait for sirens. He ran to his garage, grabbed a sledgehammer, and sprinted toward the burning car with no protective gear at all. He smashed the window, reached into the flames, and pulled the teenager out just moments before the passenger compartment became fully engulfed. Neighbors rolled the boy on the pavement to put out his burning clothes. In the days that followed, the entertainment industry expected Harmon to appear on every major talk show. Instead, he refused nearly all of them. He later said he hated the attention, and that if the car had exploded, it would have been his own family mourning a loss instead. Reporters swarmed his neighborhood for days afterward, hoping for an emotional retelling they could turn into ratings. Harmon gave them almost nothing, redirecting every question toward the injured teenager's recovery instead of his own bravery. That instinct, deflecting attention away from himself and towards someone else, would define nearly every headline moment of his adult life. That night reshaped how he thought about privacy and safety for the rest of his life, and it deepened a partnership that would soon become one of the most protected marriages in Hollywood. Some marriages are built for the camera. Mark and Pam Daubers was built against them. They married without fanfare in March 1987, at a time when Dauber was one of the most recognizable actresses on television for a role in Mork and Mindy. She chose to step back from acting to raise their two sons, believing that two Hollywood careers under one roof would be too much strain on a family. The couple made rules that baffled publicists: no discussing each other in interviews, no red carpet photos of their children, no personal social media accounts once the internet made that possible. When tabloids invented stories about divorce rumors or secret health scares, they answered with total silence, refusing to give the stories oxygen. It worked. For nearly 4 decades, their marriage has outlasted almost every other high-profile Hollywood pairing from their era. Industry parties, award show after parties, and the networking circuit that fuels most Hollywood careers were largely off limits for the couple. That absence came at a professional cost neither of them ever complained about publicly, choosing instead to measure success by the stability of their household rather than the size of their social calendar. Their two sons grew up largely unrecognized outside their own neighborhood, a rarity for children of two famous parents. But there had been an earlier moment in Harmon's life, before this marriage even began, when privacy failed him completely, and it happened to someone he loved most. Behind almost every armored wall is a wound that built it. Harmon's older sister, Kristen Harmon, had married the rock and roll star Ricky Nelson in 1963, joining one of America's most famous entertainment families. The touring lifestyle and later Ricky's death in a 1985 plane crash left Kristen struggling for years with substance dependency. Her youngest son, Sam, was just 12 when his home life became unstable enough that Mark felt compelled to act. He convinced his sister to enter treatment, and in 1987, he and Pam filed for custody of Sam, hoping to give the boy stability. While she recovered, tabloids turned the private family matter into headline news almost overnight, printing details from the courtroom that were never meant for public consumption. Watching his family's pain broadcast to strangers, Harmon eventually withdrew the custody petition and settled privately, preserving some relationship with his sister, while formally protecting his nephew through visitation. The public battle ended. The private one didn't. Reporters camped outside courthouses. Strangers debated the family's private pain on national talk shows. It took years for the family to rebuild trust, and it left Harmon with a lesson. He would never forget about what happens when the outside world gets too close. That lesson would be tested again, decades later, on the set of the very show that made him famous. 24 episodes a year sounds simple until you're the one carrying them. As the lead of NCIS and one of its executive producers, Harmon wasn't just acting. He was steering a franchise worth billions to CBS. The pressure of that schedule created friction on set, and in October 2016, a workplace incident involving Harmon's rescue dog escalated into a public feud. After the dog bit a crew member during roughhousing, co-star Pauly Parrott objected strongly to the animal remaining on set. Harmon defended his pet. The two never fully resolved the disagreement, and production reportedly adjusted schedule, so the actors filmed on separate days during Parrott's final season, using editing techniques to make their scenes appear shared. After Parrott left the show, she made public allegations on social media, accusing Harmon of physical intimidation, claims Harmon never publicly addressed. He handled it the same way he handled almost everything, in silence, letting the controversy pass without a rebuttal. It cost him some of the spotless reputation he had spent decades building, managing production budget and casting decisions on top of acting, and nearly every scene left little room to rest. On a show whose ratings justified an entire evening's lineup for the network, crew members who spent years on set have described Harmon as demanding but fair, a man who expected professionalism because he modeled it himself, arriving early and staying late long after his character scenes had wrapped. That same intensity, however, left little room for public relations softness when controversy hit. But that same discipline that kept him quiet through controversy was starting to work against his body in a different way, one that fans could see for themselves on their television screens. Viewers noticed it before anyone said a word out loud. By his late 60s, Harmon was still pushing 16-hour days, despite doctors warning him to slow down. Fans began noticing visible weight loss and exhaustion in later seasons, sparking rampant online speculation about a hidden terminal illness. The truth was less dramatic, but still serious. Years of physical exhaustion, combined with recovery from major knee surgery, had caught up with a body that had absorbed decades of football collisions and studio floors. CBS executives, aware that the franchise's success depended heavily on his presence, repeatedly pushed him to sign new contracts. Harmon felt the weight of hundreds of crew jobs resting on his decision, which kept him working long after his body was asking him to stop. By 2021, the breaking point arrived. Gibbs was written off to Alaska, and Harmon stepped away from the acting side of the franchise entirely. Around the same period, the show's world lost two men who had shaped Harmon's professional life more than almost anyone else, and those losses would change how he saw his own remaining years. September 2016 marked the first blow nobody saw coming. NCIS showrunner Gary Glassberg died suddenly in his sleep at just 50 years old, leaving an irreplaceable gap in a writer's room where Harmon had spent thousands of hours shaping the show's direction. 7 years later, in late 2023, the franchise lost David McCallum, who had played the beloved medical examiner Ducky for 2 decades, at the age of 90. For Harmon, McCallum had been more than a co-star. He represented stability and steady professionalism on a chaotic set. True to form, Harmon avoided public tributes and dramatic statements, choosing instead to grieve privately and offering only a brief, heartfelt message about how much he had admired McCallum since the day they met. These losses, by many accounts, pushed him to reconsider his priorities, shifting his focus toward family and legacy rather than the demands of a public career. Everyone assumed that shift meant Harmon was done with NCIS for good. That assumption was about to be proven wrong, thanks to an idea that came not from a network boardroom, but from his own son. This idea didn't come from a network boardroom. It came from his own son. In 2024, CBS greenlit a prequel series called NCIS Origin, exploring Gibbs' early years at Camp Pendleton in the 1990s. That son, Sean Harmon, had played a younger version of Gibbs in flashback scenes for years and envisioned a deeper exploration of the character's formative trauma. Instead of returning to acting, Mark Harmon took a different role this time, narrator and executive producer, mentoring the young actor Austin Stoll, who had been cast to play the younger Gibbs. Harmon spent hours helping Stoll master the mannerisms and rhythms audiences had watched for 2 decades. The show explored the death of Gibbs' first wife and daughter, forcing Harmon to help guide another actor through psychological terrain he himself had spent 20 years portraying from the outside. It was emotionally complex work, but it let him stay connected to the franchise without the grinding schedule that had worn down his body in the first place. For a while, that seemed like the perfect compromise. Behind the scenes, involved but unseen, no cameras on him directly. But the story wasn't finished yet, and what came next surprised even people who thought they understood exactly where this was heading. How do you plan a comeback nobody sees coming? You don't. It just arrives. In the first days of July 2026, CBS confirmed that Mark Harmon will return to play Gibbs on screen throughout the entirety of NCIS. Origin Season 3, not as a background narrator, and not for a single guest appearance, but woven through the whole season as part of a present-day mystery tied directly back to his character's 1990s Camp Pendleton days. This wasn't his first appearance in the prequel. He had already stepped into the role briefly during a Veterans Day crossover episode, but this was different. This was a full season arc, confirmed by the network itself, placing the original Gibbs back at the center of the story he helped build for 2 decades. For a man who had built his entire post-NCIS identity around staying out of spotlight, choosing to step back in front of the camera for an extended run was nothing short of remarkable. Longtime fans who assumed Harmon had permanently traded acting for producing were stunned. Comment sections filled instantly with disbelief and excitement. Social media posts from CBS were flooded with the same 2 words over and over: finally and welcome back. Casting insiders noted that Season 3 had been reworked months earlier to accommodate his participation, though the network kept those conversations private until the announcement itself. Why now? Why return to playing a character he had visibly worn himself out portraying for 18 seasons? The answer seems to lie in everything that came before it. Every choice Harmon has ever made traces back to control. Control over his image, control over his family's privacy, control over how and when the public got to see him. Stepping fully back into Gibbs was a sign that his earlier exhaustion had been forgotten. It was proof that the terms had changed. This time, the return happens on a project his own son helped create, inside a story structure built around his character's origins rather than an endless procedural grind, and without the 18-episode marathon that had worn his body down the first time. Origins films at a noticeably different pace than the original series ever did, with a smaller episode order and a production schedule built around a single connected season-long arc rather than dozens of standalone cases. That structural difference matters. It means Harmon can step back into a role that once cost him his health without repeating the exact conditions that made him leave in the first place. Fans who grew up watching Gibbs interrogate suspects in that steel-eyed silence will now watch an older, wearier version of the same man confront a mystery rooted in his own past, a narrative choice that mirrors Harmon's real journey more closely than any scripted moment could. It is a return built on Harmon's terms, not the network's demands. For a man whose life has been defined by working through pain quietly, choosing to walk back onto a set voluntarily says something his silence never could. 2 decades of playing one character can blur the line between the man and the role. Harmon spent that time giving everything to Gibbs while keeping almost nothing of his personal life public. Family tragedies, workplace controversies, physical exhaustion, and profound grief all played out behind a barrier. He built one deliberate decision at a time. And now, at a stage of life when most actors with his history would stay comfortably retired, he has chosen to step back into the role that defined his career on a new set of terms that finally seem to fit the life he has spent decades protecting. Mark Harmon's story has never really been about a badge or a franchise. It has been about a man who learned early that love was tied to performance, who nearly lost everything trying to save someone else, and who spent 40 years guarding the people closest to him with a stubbornness that never made headlines but shaped every decision he made. Football taught him to play through pain. His family taught him to keep quiet about it. Hollywood tried, again and again, to pull back the curtain, and almost every time, he found a way to close it a little tighter. Yet somehow, at an age when most men in his position would stay comfortably retired, he chose to open that curtain again on a project close enough to home that his own son could stand beside him while he did it. His return to NCIS, Origins this fall, isn't a comeback story in the traditional sense. It's a continuation of a life spent choosing, again and again, exactly how much of himself the world gets to see. And maybe that's the real reason this update surprised so many people. Not because Mark Harmon came back, but because he chose to, on his own quiet terms, one more time. Somewhere between a football field in 1972, a burning car in 1996, and a courtroom he never wanted to be in, a pattern emerges. Every time life demanded a public reaction, Harmon offered a private decision instead. This return is simply the latest one. And for a man who has spent his whole life protecting what mattered most, that may be the most fitting ending or beginning this story could ever have. What part of Mark Harmon's story surprised you the most? Let us know in the comment below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more untold stories like this one.